everyone, my name is Julia and I'm the media coordinator here at EPCBC. Now, normally I'm the person behind the camera, behind the scenes of the social media, but I wanted to step in front of the camera today to ask you a question. Have you ever felt like you weren't good enough? Now, my guess is that if you're human, you probably answer that with, yes, I have felt that way before, and maybe you're feeling that way right now. Maybe you're feeling that way in your role as a spouse or as a parent, as a child, a grandparent. Maybe you're feeling that way in your job. Or maybe you're feeling that way in your relationship with Christ, that you're just not good enough. But I'm here to tell you today to not listen to those thoughts that tell you that you are unworthy and not good enough, because it's not true. No, I'm not saying it's not important and necessary in our lives to identify our mistakes and our flaws and to learn from them and grow from them and work on our relationship with Christ with that. I'm not saying that because that's very important, and that's a big foundation of our lives and who we are as people, is to look at our flaws and to grow from them. But what I am saying is that we as people are really good at setting this bar of where we want to be at before we feel like we're effective. And a lot of that times, that bar, we reach for perfection. And the fact of the matter is that we're human and we're going to make mistakes along the way. And we live in a world where we constantly compare ourselves to others, whether others around us compare us or we do that to ourselves. We look at others and we go, man, if I was just like them, if I could just talk like them, act like them, have friends like them, if I just had this one thing, that I would be enough and I would mean something. But let me let you in on a little secret here. No one knows what they're doing. Not really, not truly, because we're not meant to. If I've learned anything in my whole life so far, is that nobody has all of the answers, because we're not God. And we can work to follow the path and the journey that God has for us, and we can work on our relationship with Christ as much as we can, but the fact of the matter is that we're still human, and we're still going to make mistakes along the way, because we are broken people, and we need Jesus to come and heal that brokenness. And this isn't just a 21st century problem. This isn't just a coronavirus pandemic world problem. This is something we've seen throughout history, from the very first sin with Adam and Eve, is human brokenness. And this is something we see in the Bible all the time. We could really essentially just open the Bible to any point and just point and go, yeah, broken person, because that's who we are as people. So let's talk about some examples of broken people in the Bible. Let's look at David. David was an adulterer. He arranged for the murder of his lover's husband, and he constantly denied God's direction. Peter, disciple of Jesus, yes, but Peter was impulsive and outspoken, and when he had the chance to defend Jesus, he didn't, and he denied him 3 times after being told that he was going to do that. And Paul was an aggressive persecutor of Christians and set on destroying Christianity and its followers. When you take these men and you separate who they were in Christ and you just look at their brokenness and at their sins and their flaws, man, would you want those men to be representing your business, to walk around to people and be like, oh yeah, that Julia, I know her, yeah. I don't know about you, but I wouldn't, because of their brokenness, because they would be untrustworthy. But when you look at them in conjunction with Christ, they're just so much more than their brokenness, because God looks straight into their hearts. Jesus is notorious for using people, just normal, everyday people like you and me, to do incredible acts according to his plan. Like David. God called David a man after my own heart, and David was a great man of faith. And he constantly recognized his failures and his shortcomings, and he would pour out his heart and his soul to Jesus. And this wasn't just because I'm a Christian, I can sin and God will forgive me later, no big deal. That's not what that was, and that's not how that works. And David went on to be one of the greatest kings of Israel. Peter was a leader among the disciples, and Jesus picked him to be the rock upon which he would build his church. And Paul, Jesus used his training and his tenacity that he learned from being a Pharisee, and he flipped that around, he molded that and funneled that in Paul, so that he would go on to become an incredible preacher of the gospel and a completely changed man. It's easy to look at people's brokenness and to identify their flaws. If we were to do that with me, if we separated who I am in Christ and we just looked at my mistakes, man, I wouldn't look any better than any of those men. But it's because I've been saved through Jesus that I'm worth more than my mistakes and my failures in my past and in my future and in my present even. When you're broken and feeling the most unworthy, that's when Jesus can do the most incredible stuff in your life. Man, when I was faced with this opportunity to do this devotional, I hesitated for days because I'm not good enough for that. I don't know enough to sit in front of a camera and to tell you these things. I've been really just blessed to stand behind that camera and listen to these amazing speakers we've had for the last 17 weeks in this Enduring series. And I've known most of them most of my life, and I just respect them so greatly. So when I was faced with this opportunity, I looked at them and I looked at me and I looked at God and I was like, are you serious? Why? But as I thought about it, I knew he was telling me why not. Because here's the thing, is we're all broken. And sometimes we see it more in others. Sometimes others are good at hiding it. But the fact of the matter is we are all flawed. And we all need Jesus to come and to help us and to save us. Jesus told us that he didn't come to seek the righteous. That he didn't come because, healthy people need a doctor. He said, healthy people don't need a doctor, sick people do. And that he came to seek and save the lost. And as improbable as it might seem, Jesus, used those men. He used Peter and Paul and David, and he can use you and me no matter our state of brokenness, because he came to seek and to save us despite that. I don't know about you, but that is it's like a physical weight lifted off me, knowing that I don't have to have it all together for Jesus not only to love me, but to use me. And the comforting thing is that he can use you. He can use me right now, today, just as you are. So, not enough? You are everything to God. He sent his only son to die for me, for you. And I don't know if you're anything like me, but I grew up in this church. And I've heard that sentence a lot, that God so loved the world that he gave his one and only son. I've heard that my whole life. And even if you didn't grow up in church, if you've stepped foot in church once, I'm sure you've heard that, John 3:16. But have you ever really just sat here and thought about it and meditated on that? His only son. Could you send the person you love the most, that you cherish the most in your life, could you send them off knowing full well that they were going to die for your neighbor that blows leaves into your yard when you're not looking? Or for your coworker who talks smack about you in the break room that's just trying to get your job? Or how about for that drunk driver that changed everything about your life? Or that person who, if they were just in a different place, different time, by 1 second, your life would be different. Could you send the person you love the most to die for them? I don't know about you, but that's an easy answer for me. That is a hard no. I could not do that, but that is exactly what God did for you and for me. Because he loves you. And are we deserving of that love? Absolutely not. But are we worthy of it? Yes. Because Jesus died for us to be worthy of that love. So next time you're thinking that you're not enough, stop. Because you are. Because Jesus came for you and for me, despite our brokenness and our flaws, because he just wants to hold us and love us and use us. Because you're good enough. Now, if you have any questions about this, if you want to know more about this free love that Jesus has for you, please talk to us. We'd love to hear from you. You can call the number that's on your screen right now. That's for our church office. Or you can direct message any of our social media pages, because we'd love to communicate with you. And if this faith is something that you want to publicly proclaim, then I'd love to invite you to our Easter service. We're having a baptism Easter Sunday, 10 a.m. right here. And we'd love to have you for it. And all that information will be at the end credit scenes. But I want you to think on that this week, and to be encouraged by the fact that you don't have to have it all together. Because God, not only will he use you just as you are, he loves you. And I promise, if you just live for God, if you seek him and work to honor him, everything's going to be okay. It will. Have a great rest of your day. Bye.